Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your nighttime DJ, DJ Music, and welcome to another episode of Exposed, where we put the police on blast. And the video that you folks are about to see is absolutely horrendous. How would you like to be 10 years old, of any race, any creed, any color, and when your first engagement with the police is to put you in handcuffs? As you can see through the bottom of the screen down there, if you guys haven't seen any of this gentleman's videos, his name is Francis Maxwell, and he talks with I think a Scottish accent. I'm not sure exactly where the guy is from, but I tell you what, if you haven't seen any of his videos, I strongly suggest you check him out. Really do. Anyway, you see right here on the screen, Exposed. We got 15 minutes to rock this funk, so I'm gonna let you folks see the video, and then we're gonna talk about it a little bit. All right? Here we go. Now check this out. 10 years old, and you're stopped by the police. Imagine that at 10 years old. Imagine that, folks.
That's our kid. Unbelievable. Oh my God.
You see this? This is how it starts. Okay, you guys know me by now. I've reported on stories like this for quite some time, but this one broke my heart into wee pieces. 10 years old, 10 years of age, and right in front of our eyes we witness his trauma. A trauma that will now follow him wherever he goes. A trauma that may lead him to act in a different way when dealing with law enforcement. A trauma that may change his state of mind, potentially resulting in an officer fearing for his life situation. You see, this is where the breakdown between law enforcement and the black community starts. In an age where the only thing you should be worried about is what's for dinner or when the next game of pickup is, but this child is here worried for his life, to the point that he wet himself in a video that has since been circulated worldwide. And while I feel it's important to highlight this story, it's not fair that this child's anguish has been witnessed by the world. And in responding, Chief Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson said Wednesday that the police followed all protocol and rules when they detained 10-year-old Michael Thomas Jr., who matched the description of a young man 10 to 12 years old that was passing out a gun. Well, let me ask, was it protocol when they told the child they knew he had escaped from juvenile and had a gun, rather than asking him? Now, this case is not cut and dry. By all means, law enforcement officers are undoubtedly regularly confronted with situations like this, especially in Chicago. But the question I want to pose to everyone watching this video, and please feel free to DM me any examples to the contrary, is would an unarmed 10-year-old white boy be placed in handcuffs for 15 minutes? Would he be held for this length of time to the point of unimaginable fear, all while his family and friends are close by confirming his identity and his innocence? Because this is where we must move beyond partisan opinions and have some empathy. A child will now go forth in his life petrified of those sworn to protect and serve. And for what reason? Protocol? Well, officers who shoot and kill unarmed black men and have been cleared of wrongdoing were also just following protocol. Does that make it right? And this is part of why the black community has so little confidence in law enforcement. A recent study by Pew Research showed that only about a third of blacks, but roughly 3/4 of whites say police in their communities do an excellent job or good job in using the appropriate force on suspects. All I'm saying is we must look at this situation through the lens of race and wonder what would have happened if Michael Thomas Jr. had been white, in order to understand the complexities and consequences of such an interaction. And in order to do that, we must refrain from the reflexive, well, what was he doing in the first place and why did he run? Victim-blaming impulses. This is a child, 10 years living on this earth. People are out here doing exactly what they did to justify the shooting of Tamir Rice, trying to rationalize this interaction. In closing, while this video has been shared millions of times, I think we can really do better to support this child. You know, the way the world united to support Keaton Jones. Let's send our support to Michael Thomas Jr. and tell him that he's not alone and he has nothing to be embarrassed about. That we empathize with him and support him. That when confronted with an unimaginably difficult situation, he proves himself far stronger than most of us can imagine. Because we're with you, young man. Follow me on Instagram at FrancisM.
There you have it, folks. And you ask yourself why in the black community we don't like the police. It's not that we fear the police. It's that we don't like the police. Let's get straight down to it. You know, this guy Francis, he tippy-toed around a lot of things that what the black community is feeling. But of course, although he is dead on point on what he says, he still has not experienced it like I would or like this black child would has. He'll never experience an experience with the cops like we have. And then when I say we, I mean black and brown people. They treat our children as if they were grown people. Just like he said in that last video. Remember when the little white kid was being bullied in the car? All the social media, the news, everybody was sending this kid cards and letters of encouragement and different things like that. But our children, as soon as they see them in the news, they vilify them and they make them out to be criminals. Just like he said about young Tamir Rice. Everybody came up with every reason in the world to why the police did what they were supposed to do in shooting and murdering that 12-year-old boy. I'm going to give you a prime example of why people question what the police do when it comes to treating black children and white children differently. There was an incident, we all remember, of Dylan Ruth going into a church where parishioners was in there having Bible study. You remember it quite well, don't you? Do I have to refresh your memory? When he took out a handgun after he worshiped with these folks and killed 9 of them. Later on, when the police figured out and found out who he was, they didn't rough him up. They didn't put him in handcuffs. They escorted this kid to the car. Then they fed him. Whatever this little 10-year-old child was accused of doing, the fact of the matter is he is a child. That's the problem. He is a child, and you are treating this child as if he is an adult. We expect right and wrong from our children, and when we teach them right from wrong, this is one of the things that most white folks don't have to teach their children, how to deal with the police, even at 10 years old. If you walk up to the police, sonny boy, or the police walk up to you, put your hands out where they can see them at 10 years old, you think a kid's going to remember that? Remember when you was in school when it was, I guess, career day, and little Johnny said, and little Susie was all fired up about the police, but little Terrell and little Eric was back over in the corner? You wonder why now? It's absolutely it's crazy to me how people can justify this scene that they just saw. How people can justify Cornerstone Patty or whatever the bitch name is. How people can justify that woman standing up in front of someone's house, blocking his entrance into his home, and then had the audacity to call the police. White people, y'all got this shit twisted. And I'm going to tell you, Francis didn't say it, but I guarantee you, you're hearing it more and more. Black people start busting heads, and then all of a sudden you'll start waking up to it. When we start popping you upside your damn head, then you'll start paying attention. You know, you got this controversy with T.I. and Melanie Trump talking about, that's not appropriate for White House activities. It's the same guy with the low moral standards that talk about grabbing by the pussies, but you worried about your wife being portrayed as a slut when she actually is. Do something about the police harassment in Chicago. Do something about the things that's going on in this country when as far as comes to race relations. It's obvious we got a person that's in the head office in the land that doesn't care. And then we got these buffoons like Kanye West, Jim Brown, that's up there celebrating. It's like these 2 black chicks from North Carolina. I don't know who they are. Freaking frack. No one's saying that if you vote Republican, that you're a bad person. No one's saying that if you vote Democratic, you are a bad person. You are here you can endorse whatever candidate you like. You can have whatever beliefs that you like. But when you see right and wrong, and you don't stand up for the side of right, you might as well become a racist. Now, anyone again that's seen this video of this 10-year-old child being handcuffed for 15 minutes, like the man said in the video, if this was little Tommy from the neighborhood down the street and he stole somebody's bike, or somebody saw him walking around with a pellet gun or a BB gun, would he have been put in handcuffs? Another incident here in North Charleston where it said there's some folks out doing their civic duty by protesting something that they didn't like. White woman has the nerve to want to call the police on these. This is an occurrence of every day, folks. And all of this happened. All of this started happening as soon as Donald Trump came into office. It was already there, like I said a long time ago in one of my videos, folks. Racism was never gone. It was just dormant. And all they needed was somebody to sprinkle some fertilizer and feed it some water. And that's exactly what Donald Trump did. These rednecks is coming out the woodwork, especially these redneck women. Think about this. We're going to take this all the way back to slavery, all right? Now, slave master didn't use no condom when he was in there raping our women. Sooner or later, he had to get some of these women that they were in there raping pregnant. And all the photos that you've seen of slave children, have you ever seen a light skin? What happened to these children? What happened to the majority of these children, that these illegitimate children that these slave masters and overseers was in there raping these women and impregnating them? And I'll tell you what happened to some of them. The slave owner's wife was killing him. And that's the same thing that's happening with our children. The only way to stop a black man from becoming a black child from becoming a grown black man is to kill him. A couple days ago, someone else sent me a video of a black child riding with his grandmother and a white friend of hers. Someone reported that there was two black individuals robbing two elderly women in a car. When they pulled the 18-year-old kid out the car, you could actually see that kid was absolutely petrified. What did he do? The grandmother asked, "What did he do?" "That's my grandson." "What are you stopping us for?" "That's my grandson." "Why is he in handcuffs?" "Well, ma'am, we just thought." But for every question that the grandmother had asked the police, he came up with a fucked up excuse. Meanwhile, this kid is in the back seat of the car being interrogated by a female officer, and all his information, even so much to who his father was written down on a pad that someday someone is going to use against him. "Oh yeah, we remember back in 2018 we stopped you." They don't tell you the full reason of why they stopped you. They just say that you were stopped and you were questioned for some reason or the other. Of course, when you go into a suspect in a robbery, they don't tell you the rest of the story. I'll say this again. If you're white and you're listening to this, if you value the welfare of your white friends that run around doing shit like this, if you value the welfare of people that you know that's in the police force that are doing something like this, and you don't give them this warning, because it's not coming from me. This is coming from general black America. You back a cat into a corner, or you back a dog into a corner, sooner or later he comes out fighting. Now it's getting down to the point where they didn't even say to babysit being black. How long do you think we're going to stand for this shit? You're not dealing with our grandparents. You're not dealing with You're not dealing with former slaves. You're not dealing with people that were just exposed to Jim Crow and didn't know better. So, folks, I got to get on up out of here. My 15 minutes is just about up here. Got about 30 seconds. Again, thank you so very much for tuning in. If you like the video, share it. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends about us. 8 p.m. each and every night, Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me live on the radio. We might talk about subjects like this, or we might just play some music. So come on out there to golden-grooves-radio.net. Hang on out there with me. How come? Don't you? Don't meet me there. Meet me there, folks. See you.